Previously on Balls.
And what a good song, hey, Johnny? It's like
very nice.
Happy, happy song. As I was saying, it's as Aussie as Vegemite. But it's not as Aussie as Vegemite because it comes off a CD, and I'm surprised David Campese was saying how much he loves Dave Dobbin last time, and it comes off a CD, the New Zealand's greatest hits.
There we go.
So Dave Dobbin's a New Zealander, I should say New Zealander, and not an Aussie. Campo?
Yeah, I know that. I could have told you that.
But you say you like his music?
No, I like that song. It's been around years and years and years.
Yeah. It's a good song.
Pretty simple.
It's a good song. Campo standing by for the flush out this afternoon, proudly brought to you by Imperial Collection. Campo actually took a little visit to Imperial Collection over the last Friday when he was in town. We popped in there and saw the range of cars on the floor. What an awesome place, eh, Campo?
Oh, I tell you, wouldn't mind one of those Ferraris.
It was a Ferrari as you walk in a Ferrari. Standing on the floor like a red one, Johnny.
I'm an Italian. What do you expect?
Gee, it was lovely.
Oh, lovely car.
Love fast cars and red ones.
Bentley standing on the one side of the floor. They got the, which I think Sasha and them test drove last week in the World of Supercars, the Abarth, right? Mm-hmm. The souped up Fiat. It's a World of Supercars right there. Very, very nice. On William Nicol Drive. Go and visit them. Imperial Collection, home of the signature brands, the importer of distributor of Bentley, Lamborghini and Lotus. Saw some low tie there as well. imperialcollection.co.za. Drop by the dealership. It's William Nicol just at Bryanston Drive. Go and have a look. They're very friendly. He'll offer you a coffee there and stuff as well. Or if you want to buy, you can go there and buy as well. Imperial Collection, home of the signature brands. Click on their button on our website at balls.co.za. So Super Rugby is done and dusted for another year. Seems like it's gone on forever, Campo.
Yeah, look, I think that we actually talked about it, and I think what should really happen at Super Rugby now, it's a bit like the stock up or the football. First past the post, you win. But then you cut out an extra 3 or 4 weeks, and they can get. It's stupid having a competition, and then you've got to stop for 3 weeks, and then you've got the semi-finals 2 weeks away, and you've got to continue your form again, which is very, very difficult. And I still believe that Super Rugby should be who the best team has been all year. So and that's how the best team all year should win. But unfortunately, because some teams have more injuries towards the end, or they struggle because of the change, and it just makes it a bit of a mockery. But anyway,
it compounds, and I completely agree with you, which is a very strange thing in itself.
It's very unusual.
Yes, but I agree with you. I think the competition's completely screwed up. They've tinkered with it far too much, into a point where it just seems strange. It makes it disjointed by having it broken with the international window. But you can understand if they're going to have that many teams and that many games, you've got to have that. But then also the home derbies at the end of the round robin phase doesn't make sense. The crowds, when you have a relegation game pulling 20,000 more people than a final, that doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. But also the thing is also when you look at that test sort of time, one of the biggest problems is that some teams don't have test players. So if they're in the finals, they're actually going to benefit because they rest their players while the other guys have got to go and play test rugby.
Yeah.
And that's what normally happens towards the end. It's actually the teams who have got no test players. And
or very few.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happens.
And that's kind of what I mean, it was basically two teams as opposed to two sides that have got some really big name stars playing. I know there's some test players in both sides, but some of them only sort of started, like a Jesse Moggs and people like that, only really sort of came into the side because of their performances, like the Cheetahs this year. Cheetahs did well, and they, beginning of the year, you could have counted their number of Springboks on a couple of fingers. So what you say is right. It's they're no real big stars, but they're the ones that came through.
Yeah, well, that's what happens, and if you actually, and you think about it, there's two big, semi-finals. I mean, the Chiefs versus the Crusaders. The pace of the game was unbelievable, and then you had the Brumbies chasing around the world to make a final, which basically you're not going to really win because of the, even though after the game I talked about it's not an excuse, but two really little simple decisions by not finding touch You know, if they didn't have all that travel, they probably wouldn't have. They would have found touch. You know, that does add. It does affect you eventually. You know.
Listen, I've thrown this. I've sort of put this forward now during the course of the last few weeks, particularly when we went into this last 4 or 5 weeks of Super Rugby, this scenario through, because I just find that last 4 or 5 weeks completely uninteresting, because I don't want to sit there and have to watch a game where basically my team I support should lose in the national interest. In other words, you know, Sharks must lose so that the Bulls can go through and go all the way, or have a chance to, because the Sharks are out. Home derbies at the end of the season is wrong. So my what I've put forward, and I put it forward to Kevin de Klerk today, he said it was definitely the way to look at going. Cheeky Watson last week or the week before also said it was something that's a type of format that they should consider. So a couple of people very much involved with the franchises have said it's a good idea, and the idea is swap it around, play your domestic competition at the beginning of the year and run concurrently with Super Rugby. In other words, the games count for both.
Yeah.
And then the top 5 from each region go forward to the second phase after the international window, which is where you have your travelling. So in other words, you play against teams from other countries, but you only take the points through of the teams that go with you. So in other words, the teams that you played against that go with you, you only take those points through. Therefore, not playing as many games, you have your domestic competition, and there you can accommodate the Lions, the Kings. You can even have a team like Griquas getting through if you want, and play your second part at this end, where it's all the travel. You're not having these home derbies, and then you have semis in your final, because effectively the travel's not going to make any difference. It's not going to change.
You've got too much time on your hand, mate.
But I mean,
you think too much.
But no, it didn't take hours and hours to think about it. It's just a case of swap it around, but you'll never get it done, because you're never going to have 2 co-sanctioned events at the same time.
It's not going to work. It's too logical. You know that. They've got to make it difficult. That's why they're in their jobs. They've got to keep people guessing. You know, like the first time when they do 7-15, at the start of the year, someone says, I don't understand the draw. How's this going to work? Because it's too confusing. You know, you get a bye, you get 4 points. When you get a bye, you should get no points at all. That's it, basically.
And some teams don't end up...
You don't get nothing. But we go, you get 4 points. And, you know, I think the one team, I can't remember this year, hadn't played. I think they had a week off, and they get 4 points, and they're actually towards the top because the other teams started to lose.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was, I think it was the Cheetahs, in fact. They got through a period and suddenly had 4 points. They were in playoffs there. But the other thing is also, how can you have a tournament where you might not have to play against the Crusaders or the Chiefs or the Bulls?
Didn't play the Chiefs this year.
Yeah, how do you have a competition where you don't play those sides in the round robin, but others do?
Look, it is very frustrating. You know, but the thing is now that, you know, there's a lot of speculation about more teams, or Australia, New Zealand going on their own and all that. But I mean, you know, the thing is, the travel is the factor, you know, and that is a problem. But, you know, besides all the travel and all that, I mean, you've got to look at for example, the Cheetahs. The Cheetahs probably were the best South African team this year. The way they played, you know, they went on tour, they won games that no other team won. They played some great rugby, and yet before the semi-final they have a week off. Then they play the Bulls, they have a week off, then they go away. Like, it's ridiculous. How can you show form when you've got a couple of weeks off? Yeah. You know, it's bizarre. So that really counted against them. You know, and you don't want that. You want the best teams to play in the semis. That's what you want. You want a contest. You know, and you know, and I suppose the other thing is that, you know, we talked about, which I've mentioned to today. You know, there was an article in the Australian paper, Clive Rathbone was interviewed saying, you know, I got the ball once in the game, and the lawmakers have got to change the laws so there's no sort of just hit up and bash and get penalties. You know, and I started to read the article, said, you know, we've got to get away from this, the lawmakers. And I said, hold it, it's not the lawmakers who make you play that way, it's the coaches who make you play the style of rugby you want to play. You know, he said, I got the ball once in the game. I said, well, that's up to the coach. The coach will play the standard of rugby he wants to play, or the style, because he's the coach. Yeah. Players these days, unfortunately, can't think about the game because they're not allowed to. You know, so it's no good talking about the lawmakers. We're always going to be lawmakers. You just got to adapt. And, well, how come the Chiefs under pressure can score tries where the Brumbies couldn't? Because They're under instructions.
Yeah.
That's pretty simple. That's logical if you watch the game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they proved that you can actually play entertaining rugby, and it's not only the final, the semi-final. That semi-final against Crusaders was way streets ahead of what we saw at Loftus. So you can win a competition playing that kind of rugby.
Well, also, if did you watch the game?
What, the final?
The final?
Yeah.
Did you see the Chiefs disco dance afterwards?
The disco dance?
Yeah, didn't you see it?
No.
No, go on the YouTube, and it's called Chiefs Dance Liam Messon. Mate, it's absolutely hilarious.
Oh, is it? Is it after they won?
After that, yeah, but they actually did it during the year.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was very,
I haven't
very
seen
funny.
it. Sorry, I went.
Even Dave Rainey, the coach for the Chiefs, he was interviewed, and he said, mate, last year or this year, he said, look, it's about the players. It's not about me. He said, there's a lot of hard work on it. The players deserve all the credit.
Yeah.
And that's what rugby's about. It's about the players. It's not about anyone else. I mean, obviously, everyone's got a role, and he said all the staff, the hard work they put in. Because really, what you see on the Saturday, and it's like your show, you can rehearse whatever. What you see on the Saturday, that is the end performance. And that's what people pay to go and see. And you want to be entertained. And you talked about the Chiefs the week before against the Crusaders. They know how to beat. They know how to entertain. And they did in that last 20 minutes. They knew they had to score tries, and they did. They lifted the tempo up, and they played a really good style of rugby.
Yeah.
And that's what rugby's about. That's what's such a great game.
Well, I'll go and check it out on YouTube. Sorry, I switched over to the cricket because I thought, let me just make it a run. Aussie team's getting beaten, so I went over to the Ashes.
Don't be silly.
And have you heard the latest on the Ashes, Campo?
What is the latest?
England retained the Ashes. The third test is drawn.
It's drawn already.
Yeah,
it's
washed
drawn.
out.
Such a pity.
That's all right. We've still got another 7 to go. That's all right.
Yes.
I love it about the Aussies. As soon as they lose a series, and the next series counts for this series.
I'm not the one who won 10 test matches, so...
All right, well, look...
I think it was the weather, wasn't it?
There was the weather.
Rain washed out play.
Umpiring.
Yeah, a bit of both, I think.
Yeah, there we go.
I just said today, stop bagging DRS. DRS, there's nothing wrong with it. It works. If you show the replays, you can't argue with DRS. Just use it properly. There's no point in bagging DRS when players are using it incorrectly and umpires can't see properly.
I agree. Rugby's the same.
GMO as well. If GMO gets it wrong, it's not the actual replay's fault. It's the guy that's looking at it. It's him to blame.
Well, even on Saturday when the Robinson scored the try, George Smith complained about obstruction. Yeah. And the ref's got to go, okay, can you have a look? There was no obstruction.
But did they go back far enough?
He went and said, look, I think there was an obstruction. That was in the 22.
Yeah.
And that was, but the thing is, you talk about that game, and there was 2 incidents in the game where in the first half the Chiefs were attacking, and Stephen Moore the halfback was about to pass the ball, and Stephen Moore was in an offside position, and he had his hands up, and the ball, what happened, the halfback sort of threw the ball, hit the ground, and the flanker scooted off 20 metres down the field. And George Smith happened when the intercept happened as well. He was actually infringing, he was actually onside, but he was obstructing the halfback from passing the ball. And it was quite interesting if you watched that game, because the tactics of the Brumbies really were, the number 9 for the Chiefs was very slow, so they put a lot of pressure on him. But in the second half, Joubert said to him, one more time in this area, you're always giving slow penalties, someone's going to the bin. Anyway, after that, the Brumbies didn't give one penalty away. So they knew.
Yeah.
They played. You got to play the referee. You got to push the limits until he said stop, and then they stopped.
Yeah. Alrighty, well look, that wraps it up for Super Rugby this year. We'll just take a little bit of a breather, and then we're into Curry Cup. Well, Curry Cup's kind of, I think, already underway, so we'll be having a chat to you about. Be interesting to see how the new hierarchy at the Sharks does. So there's a couple of interesting things with our local rugby, see how teams do, and also how the Lions are going to come after their higher.
What's going to happen now? So you've replaced one bottom team with another. That's good.
Yeah, they're going to probably, as I said to Kevin de Klerk earlier, I can see the goalpost being moved sometime in the next few weeks. Oh
my goodness! But what about then you got the championship, Castle Championship coming soon?
Yeah, but we'll have a chat we'll chat to you about that next Monday.
Yes, definitely.
All right, cool.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Campo. Thanks
David.
for all the Super Rugby updates and stuff. We'll chat to you again next Monday.
On Saturday, last week too, mate.
Yeah, cool. Well, we'll catch up again soon.
Definitely. Thanks,
Have a good week. Cheers, man. Bye-bye.
Okay.
There we go. David Campese on the flush out today, wrapping up the final. Proudly brought to you by Imperial Collection, home of the signature brands, the importer and distributor of Bentley, Lamborghini and Lotus. imperialcollection.co.za. or you can find them at balls.co.za. Click on the button, take you straight into their front page of their website.
This is Balls Visual Radio. Darren, Simon, Kate, and John. Weekdays from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central African Time. Balls.co.za.